promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink on West Africa, then we're cross radio broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. First, our top stories. At least 20 dead, there's several displaced as the deadly floods hit Abidjan after torrential rains.
It was dawn around 5 a.m. when the fence collapsed at the top, killing at least 9 people. Their bodies were taken away.
Ghana's opposition NPP calls for state of emergency over flood disasters as victims count losses. Nigeria and France strengthening the defense cooperation against the persistent insurgencies. And concerns grow over authorities' silence on missing political figures in Mali. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Sankulu Jibril Janko.
Many thanks for joining us. We begin in Ghana. Floodwaters have receded across much of the capital, Accra, but thousands of residents are now facing the difficult task of rebuilding their lives. At least 12 people have been confirmed dead, while more than 7,000 households were displaced by Monday. Devastating floods which destroyed homes, businesses, and source of livelihood. A recovery efforts continue. The main opposition National Patriotic Party, or NPP, is calling on the government to declare a state of emergency to speed up relief and rehabilitation efforts affected by communities. Our Accra correspondent Nadi Ditete reports.
A lot of water flood here. Me, tall like this, the water is on my chest.
The streets of Accra are slowly drying. But across many parts of Accra, the signs of destruction are impossible to miss. Flood-damaged furniture lines the roadsides. Traders are salvaging what little remains of their stock, while families shovel mud from their homes, uncertain about how they will rebuild after losing years of savings in just a few hours.
He should come to our aid and help us, especially what is our problem right now is food. Because me, all my kitchen items, my foodstuffs is gone. The water carried them away.
We can't quantify the extent of destruction. It's a lot. From mattresses, clothing, and other belongings. We couldn't salvage anything. We had to prioritize our lives and safety. We haven't witnessed this level of flooding in this area.
I do laundry, so if you can see these people's items, my washing machine have collapsed, small cry. My fridge has collapsed, cry. As the rain starts, we can't even take anything. All our things are turned Ebola. That's our goods, our blanket, our bedsheet, customer things. All is there.
The disaster has also intensified the political debate over the government's response. The opposition New Patriotic Party flag bearer Dr. Mahmoud Baumia says the scale of destruction warrants the declaration of a national state of emergency to speed up relief and recovery efforts and mobilize additional resources for affected communities.
And if this is going to be more rain, I believe that the government could also consider even declaring a state of emergency so that we deal with this in that particular format.
But the government insists it has already begun rolling out emergency interventions. Interior Minister Muntaka Mubarak addressed Parliament over the matter.
The President instructed that from their contingency fund, we should be able to access some money. And I'm happy to state a total amount of 350 million is being targeted to be used to help in dealing with the challenges that we have.
For WDR, Nadi Ditete, Accra.
In neighboring Togo, heavy rains that battered the capital Lomé have caused widespread floodings, leaving a trail of destructions. Homes, roads, and other critical infrastructure have sustained significant damage, disrupting daily life for thousands of residents. Authorities are assessing the extent of the devastations as emergency response efforts continue. Imo Edet has more in this report.
Traffic disruptions on key roads, submerged streets, flooded homes and neighborhoods, and overflowing retention basins. This is a striking scene in the Togolese capital, where economic activity has ground to a halt due to heavy rains over the past 2 days. Economic activity has been severely disrupted, as evidenced by a fruit juice vendor in the Logope neighborhood of Greater Lomé.
I woke up to the rain. I thought it would stop at some point,
but instead it intensified, and our roads are in really bad shape. The drainage ditches along our roads are full. I don't even know what to do.
Every Monday, the Afagnangan market, located in the Basmono prefecture in the southern maritime region, is bustling with activity. It is a hub for the sale of food crops. Commerce in this area is also being disrupted because the road leading to the markets is submerged. Traders are calling for repairs to this strategic route.
The rain started last night. This morning, the road between Armenia and Afanyaga is gone. Everything is flooded. There wasn't a bridge here. So, the situation is truly serious. We are trying to use the other route, which goes through Bugiri, but that is complicated too.
The relevant authorities are urging vigilance, noting that the Civil Security Response Plan has been activated under the coordination of the National Civil Protection Agency.
Imo added with that report. Meanwhile, in Cote d'Ivoire, at least 20 people have died following days of torrential rainfall that triggered severe flooding across the country. The heavy rains inundated the economic capital Abidjan, damaging homes, displacing residents, and disrupting daily life. Landslides have also occurred in parts of the city, worsening the situation in affected communities. Residents are calling for urgent assistance as emergency teams continue to respond to the disaster. Abdullah Hassan gives the details in the following report.
In the Banco North Nematulai neighborhood of the Atekube district, every family has a loved one missing after a landslide that killed 14 people. The trauma is still visible on the faces of the residents.
I was lying right here when he woke me up. Samiti, Hadassa's mom, and everyone's here. I feel so sad for him.
It was dawn around 5 a.m. when the fence collapsed at the top, killing at least 9 people. Their bodies were taken away. We are affected because they took off our entire roof. We just have to leave. I've lost at least 9 tenants whose homes I've had to dig up. Really, it's hard.
In total, the torrential rains have claimed the lives of around 20 people in Banco North Nemotilai. With the weather forecast predicting heavy rains during the rainy season, the residents of this neighborhood fear further tragedies. Karim Tangara, the neighborhood president, is intensifying his efforts to raise awareness among residents about the dangers of living in high-risk areas. Today, his focus is on securing swift assistance for the 23 families affected by the heavy rains.
What we always do is assist the population by asking for help from the various neighbors to assist not only those affected, but also those who need to evacuate.
Following this latest tragedy, the Atekube Town Hall has called on residents to immediately evacuate high-risk areas. Some homes have already been demolished to prevent further tragedies.
Meanwhile, still in Cote d'Ivoire, the former deputy mayor of Kumasi municipality, Alo Bro Jacques, is in custody over an alleged illegal demolition operation in Abidjan. Well, he is accused of authorizing the unlawful destruction of several homes in the district, leaving many residents displaced. While the government provides financial assistance and food aid to affected families, human rights organizations say emergency relief is not enough. They are calling on the authorities to provide permanent housing for those who lost their homes and to ensure their rights are fully protected. Details with Usman Omar.
In a statement, the prosecutor at the Abidjan Court of First Instance announced that Aloy Bru Jacques will soon be tried for multiple offences. These include disturbing public order, willful destruction of buildings, willful damage to the property of others, and publishing false news likely to discredit institutions. This former deputy mayor of the Kumasi district in Abidjan had ordered the demolition of several homes in Kumasi Campment, a working-class neighborhood in the district. He claims ownership of a vast 34 hectares property on which the destroyed homes were built. While the investigation continues to determine responsibility, the government has expressed its solidarity with the displaced residents, most of whom have been rehoused in schools. However, of the 400 households identified, many are still living on the streets. The Ivorian Bar Association, which has joined the case as a civil party, is calling on the state to urgently rehouse all the victims. Roselyne Aka Serikpa, an attorney at law, is a member of the Ivorian Bar Association.
There is still space in Abidjan. There are plots of land classified as public domain. These plots of land can immediately be reclaimed by the Ivorian state, on which tents can be erected and makeshift houses quickly built to allow these populations to live while awaiting the determination of responsibility and the application of sanctions.
Ivorian civil society also calls on the government to pay closer attention to human rights issues in its eviction operations in Abidjan. Malé is an official of the National Civil Society Union in Côte d'Ivoire.
Respect for human rights must be at the heart of all public and government action regarding evictions and demolitions, even in at high-risk areas.
For several years, numerous families have been evicted from various neighborhoods in Abidjan in the name of urban renewal.
Well, that is Usman Omar with that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Now to bilateral partnership, as Nigeria and France have agreed to deepen defense cooperation following high-level talks in Abuja. Both countries are seeking to strengthen efforts against terrorism, insurgency, and other cross-border security threats. The renewed cooperation comes at a time of growing insecurity across the Sahel and Lake Chad basin, where regional and international cooperation has become increasingly important. Correspondent Yeche Nusasietu reports.
The meeting took place between the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Moussa, and the French ambassador to Nigeria, Marc Fonbostier. It focused on expanding military cooperation through intelligence sharing, joint training, capacity building, and operational support in the fight against terrorism and other security challenges. Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Moussa, says Nigeria values its long-standing defense relationship with France and is committed to strengthening collaboration to improve regional security. Officials also reviewed existing military cooperation between both countries and explored new areas of collaboration, including defense technology, logistics, and counter-terrorism operations. French ambassador to Nigeria, Marc Fonbostier, reaffirmed France's commitment to supporting Nigeria's security efforts, describing the country as a strategic partner in promoting peace and stability in West Africa. The renewed cooperation comes as Nigeria continues military operations against Boko Haram, ISWAP, and armed criminal groups, while seeking stronger partnerships to address security threats that extend beyond national borders. Officials from both countries say sustained cooperation and intelligence sharing will be critical to improving regional security and tackling transnational crimes across West Africa. For WADR, Yeche Nusasetu in Abuja.
We turn to the Central Sahel, particularly in Mali, where concerns continue to grow over the disappearance of political figures and government critics. Among them is prominent lawyer and politician Muntaga Tal, who was reportedly abducted by armed men wearing masks 2 months ago. Several other political figures and critics are also missing under similar circumstances, with their whereabouts still unknown. The transitional authorities have not publicly commented on the report disappearances, raising a growing concern among families, lawyers, and human rights advocates. Well, Augustine Colley tells us more.
According to family members and legal representatives, Mutanga Tal has since been held by state security at an undisclosed location without any legal process. Other individuals who reportedly disappeared under similar circumstances include Yusuf Daba Jawara, Musa Jere, and other critics of the transitional government, including religious leaders and military personnel. The total number of those missing remains unknown, and the authorities have not publicly commented on the allegations. The reported disappearances began shortly after Mali's military justice system announced on May 1 an investigation into alleged complicity in the April 25 terrorist attacks, which were claimed by the Group for the Support of Islam and Muslims, JANIM, an Al-Qaeda-linked group together with separatist fighters. In a statement, Malayan military prosecutors referred to the possible involvement of certain politicians but did not provide further details or evidence of complicity. However, the transition authorities have not publicly confirmed the arrests nor commented on the missing individuals.
Augustine Coley filed that report. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. At least 20 dead, several displaced as the deadly floods hit Abidjan after torrential rains. Ghana's opposition NPP calls for state of emergency over flood disaster as victims count losses. Nigeria and France strengthening defensive cooperation against persistent insurgencies. And concerns grow over authorities' silence on missing political figures in Mali. Still ahead in the news, we have a guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Liberia, calls are mounting for the establishment of a specialized anti-corruption court to strengthen the fight against corruption and improve accountability. Civil society organizations backed by development partners are leading the campaign for the proposed court. As part of these efforts, a policy dialogue was held in the capital Monrovia on Tuesday under the theme strengthening transparency and accountability in Liberia through the establishment of the specialized National Anti-Corruption Court. The forum brought together senior government officials, members of the judiciary, lawmakers, civil society groups and development partners to discuss the proposed reforms and build consensus on the way forward. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
Delivering the keynote address, former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf said corruption has remained one of the greatest obstacles to Liberia's development, undermining public trust, weakening state institutions, and limiting economic progress. The former Liberian leader urged President Joseph Boakai to prioritize the establishment of the specialized National Anti-Corruption Court.
The President of Liberia to treat the request for the specialized court with the seriousness it deserves and to take the necessary corrective action and to address the several scandals that plague the nation.
Madam Sirleaf also wants the Supreme Court and the National Legislature to play their constitutional roles in ensuring the proposed court become a reality.
We also call on the Supreme Court to improve the record of performance of the court by taking corrective action on the workings of the court and the overall judicial system as required by our Constitution.
Representing the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, Executive Chairperson, Councillor Edisandra Zoe, reaffirmed the Commission's support for the establishment of the court.
One of the persisting challenges continues to be timely and effective adjudication of corruption cases. The fight against corruption is not just an LACC issue, it is all Liberians.
The dialogue was organized by the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia in collaboration with the Center for Democratic Governance and Partners for Democratic Change with support from the Government of Ireland. Delegates and international partners renewed calls for stronger collaboration among the executive, judiciary, legislature, and integrity institutions. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Now let's return to Togo, where the government is yet to guarantee the safe return of human rights activists currently living in exile. Well, the International Federation for Human Rights and the World Organization Against Torture have made a joint appeal to the authorities requesting assurance for the victims' return, but to no avail yet. It comes 1 year after the June 2025 protests against Togo's new constitution, the rising cost of living, and the detention of civil society activists. Well, according to two organizations, the security crackdown on those demonstrations left more than 100 people arrested, with 21 documented cases of torture and other forms of ill treatment, and 5 people killed. Christopher Atiche completes the story.
In an open letter addressed to Togolese authorities, The two organizations claimed that since June 2025 protests, no investigation has been concluded and a climate of fear continues to prevail. They maintain that this situation has forced a new wave of human rights defenders to flee the country. Many activists remain reluctant to speak publicly, even while in exile, while some report facing online threats and what they describe as transnational repression, making the prospect of returning to Togo particularly dangerous under current conditions. Among those who left the country is Rodrigue Ahego, coordinator of pro-democracy movement Tonus La Page Togo. He reportedly went into exile in late July 2025 after receiving threats of arrest if he returned home. Ahego had previously been detained a year earlier while welcoming the release of several detained human rights defenders. Towards the end of last year, the International Federation for Human Rights and the World Organization Against Torture says more action is needed. They are calling on the Togolese authorities to provide effective guarantee for the protection of returned activists, arguing that such measures are essential to promoting justice, confidence and lasting social peace in the country.
Christopher, I take you with that report.
Politics,
Analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is The Guest.
In our guest interview segment, we head to Sierra Leone, where the Labour Congress has criticized the government's recent reduction in fuel prices, describing the measure as inadequate. On Monday, the government announced that the price of petrol will fall from 25 to 23 leons per litre, while diesel will be reduced from 40 to 25 leons per litre following discussions with oil marketing companies. Representing more than 3 million workers across the country, the Sierra Leonean Labour Congress says that the reductions do not reflect the sharp decline in global crude oil prices. In an official communication, the Labour body is also requesting a meeting with President Julius Maada Bio to discuss fuel pricing and other issues affecting workers and the wider economy. Well, our guest is Edward Kamara, the Deputy Secretary General of Sierra Leone Labour Congress.
Thank you. For us, we're disappointed because we were expecting a reduction from 35 to 30, but from 35 to 33, the general populace are not that happy. We've held several engagements on radio and TV and even on online, and we're getting the reaction from the general public that this reduction is significant. So we are saying reduce the fuel so that the cost of transportation will also reduce. Reduce the cost of fuel so that those employers that do rely on fuel for their generators, they'll be able to do business.
The government justifies the price increase initially by citing rising costs in the global oil market, and because the country imports all its refined petroleum products. These are some of the reasons they set it at 35 leon per litre at the time, and now it has reduced to 33. Is it not something commendable so far that the government has done?
It is true that all our petroleum products are imported, but let it be commensurate with our sub-regions, because most times governments will make reference to Guinea, to Liberia, Ghana, or to the Gambia whenever there is need for them to increase fuel. They have reduced their own prices. Why can't you do as well? Because the same challenge. Okay. Ghana is not producing fuel, Liberia is not producing fuel, and they're all buying from the same point. So it's a matter for government to make this a priority for the health and of businesses and for better salaries for workers.
In your letter to President Julius Maada Bio, you are seeking redress to these issues, and you are also planning to have a meeting with the president. Specifically, what response are you expecting from the president and the relevant regulatory authorities?
This is the first time, in fact, for us to send a letter to the ministry responsible, because normally our unions do liaise with ministers and other government heads. But when we collect all the issues coming from the union, they will engage the president. We catalog all the issues. So it's just that when the Minister of Trade or the PIA refuse to acknowledge our letter or neither to call on us for discussions, and then we thought that they are not taking the issue serious, we are not happy for us to solve problem in the office of the president. That is the reason why he appointed ministers and other people to be looking at all those issues. But we are optimistic that the level of advocacy, the manner at which people have been calling for further reduction, the president will respond to us, and we are looking forward to that. Because if we are called upon, we discuss the issue, we'll also prefer some of the measures which we believe will be a win-win for all of us.
What if the government does not implement the additional fuel price reduction that the Labour Congress is requesting? What steps is the Congress prepared to take?
Well, what gave us comfort today was when the information minister assured us that they are on review and that within 2 weeks they will try their level best to review it and to reach to a particular price that will be pleasing. So we are not pessimistic. I am sure, based on what he said, it's not only to Ross Labour Congress, but it was on a public discussion where he spoke on that. So we are hopeful that within the next few days, we'll meet with him or maybe the minister or the PRA to further get to a point where the people will appreciate.
Edward Kamara is the Deputy Secretary General of Sierra Leone Labour Congress. Well, in sports, France cruised into the World Cup last 16 with a 3-0 win over Sweden. Well, Kylian Mbappe scored twice, while Michael Olise starred with 2 assists after a dominant French display. Well, Bradley Barcola added the other goal as Les Bleus outclassed Sweden from start to finish. Well, Mbappe's brace take him level with Lionel Messi on 6 goals in the Golden Boot race. France now face Paraguay in the last 16 on Saturday in Philadelphia. In an earlier encounter, Norway's Erling Haaland scored 4 minutes from time to earn a 2-1 victory over Cote d'Ivoire in the World Cup round of 32 on Tuesday and set up a meeting with Brazil. Haaland's 86-minute winner came from a tap-in for his 5th goal of the tournament. Now, Norway winger Antonio Nusa opened the scoring twice with a calling effort 6 minutes before halftime. Substitute Ahmad Jallow dribbled past his way through for 74 minutes equalizer. However, it was Haaland who found that winner. And today, the Lions of Senegal will take on no other than Belgium. Meanwhile, Pape Thiaw, that is the head coach, has assured fans that his team has prepared for all the possible scenarios against Belgium in the round of 32, even mentioning the possibility of a penalty is shootout. Senegal will face Belgium in the round of 32 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup today, Wednesday at 8 p.m. at Seattle Stadium. On the eve of this knockout match, the coach expressed confidence in his team's ability to meet the mental and technical demand of a game of this importance. Ahead of that kickoff, however, England will take on DR Congo at 4 p.m. Well, we've come to the other edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio Broadcasting from Senegal, Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. And many thanks to Ismaila Kamara and Maudo Juvo for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, including X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. Well, coming up next is WADR's gender program 50-50 with Christopher Aticho. You can join Maimuna Fofana at 1 p.m. for Info Chevu, comprehensive news bulletin in French at 1 p.m. I am Sankula Jibril Janko. Good afternoon.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Baft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.